You are
nice
nice
to meet
Why did you come to RIKEN?
To work, of course, to change the world.
I came to RIKEN about 3 years ago after I graduated from my PhD. I was in the UK before. So when I moved here to RIKEN, I became a postdoctoral researcher. And the main focus of the research that I wanted to conduct here was to actually study learning bioinformatics and data analysis.
I'm coming to RIKEN to do research, and the research is about the chromatin epigenetics and gene regulation.
I came to RIKEN because I hoped I could watch lots of sumo wrestling in my free time. One of my holidays, I came and I watched one of the bouts, and it was incredible, like watching these two men, and then they just whack in the middle, and the sound just reverberates around the entire kokugikan, and it's really quite technically skilled. And like all the fans get into it and they're screaming and yelling and cheering, and it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting.
I came to RIKEN because it's a very prestigious institution for research, and I was attracted by the technology and research that is being performed here.
I finished my master's degree. So during my master's, I did 6 months in the US and 6 months in France. And then I got a job offer for 6 months in Japan. And I thought it would be nice to compare these 3 different continents, because it was similar kind of work, all in molecular biology, working in the lab. And I thought, because between the French and the US labs, it was so different. I thought, let's try another country and see if it's also different. And it's completely different here.
When did you join RIKEN?
Almost 10 years ago.
Oh, 10 years. So it started off as a 6-month project, but
quickly, yes. And I was lucky to stay longer, and because I switched to different projects in between, but really it's really interesting to work here. I really like it.
Previously, in my research, I was mainly focused on doing lab experiments. And when I came here to RIKEN, I decided to completely transition into dry lab and doing data analysis. So that was my main objective here.
Okay. My story is not aspirational like other people's. So I came to Japan to watch sumo for a week. I had an extra week of holidays booked after that, but I came for a week. And then I thought, while I'm in Japan, I should apply for a job. And there was 3 jobs that I thought to apply for at RIKEN, which is my level. I only had time to apply for 1. So I looked up the different labs and I saw the group with Dr. Minoda, and she looked really friendly in the photo they put up. And when you apply for a job, you generally write a cover letter, which is kind of like why you want the job, a bit about yourself and things. And at the end of the cover letter, I wrote, I'm in Japan for holidays. I can come in for an interview. And she actually contacted me and said, come in. So I came in and we sat down and she discussed about the project and everything with me. Then she took me out. We went to the staff cafeteria for lunch with the rest of the group. And then she said, okay, we'll organize an interview. So I came back again that same week. We had an interview. Then I went home to Australia, and then I got offered the job. And I was like, wow, I went on holidays to watch sumo and I came back with a job. So it was quite interesting, actually.
Where are you from?
Actually, I was born in Peru. And,
I see. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then I'm Peruvian, and I had the chance to come to Japan through the Mombuka Kyushu scholarship. So I studied, I got my degree from Kyushu University. And after graduation in Kyushu University, I went to UCSF, to California, in San Francisco. So over there, I studied a little bit about aging and neurodegeneration. And after completing my postdoc over there, I decided to come back to Japan and join RIKEN.
I'm from Australia. So I was born there and I lived there till I moved to Japan.
Originally, I'm from France, and I did most of my studies actually in France. And when I graduated from my master's, I then decided to move to the UK. So in the last 7 years, I've been living in Europe. I've actually been living in the UK.
Okay.
And this is where I did my PhD actually. Also.
Right. Why did you choose Japan?
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting question actually. When I was doing my PhD, I always knew that I wanted to go abroad to do my postdoc research. So there are many options, obviously, like the world is really big and everywhere is so exciting. In the past, actually, with my husband, we came here to Japan on holiday, and I came here also for work to present an international conference. And I really, really like the country. And also my husband, he works in video games, and he's very passionate about Japanese video games. So it seemed almost like a kind of a natural decision for both of us to come and work here as a new step in our life. So when I graduated from my PhD, I already had the offer to come here and work in RIKEN. So after maybe 3 months after graduating, we just quit our jobs and left everything in the UK, and we moved to Japan together.
Wow.
So besides the fact that RIKEN is a very good place to do science, it's renowned. One of the most important reasons why I came here is because of my wife. My wife is Japanese, and we lived in the US for many years. So we decided that it would be great to come and enjoy Japan, her country.
What are some things you like about Japan in general? Is it mainly sumo or?
I love the convenience.
Mm.
I can order something and then it will arrive the next day to my parcel locker. Or I love the public transport system. It's always on time. I've always wondered why people run to the train, because there's another train in like 3 minutes. Whereas back home in Australia, I understand why people run for the train, because there's not another one for like 20 minutes.
I see, yeah.
But I found that if you are nice to Japanese people, they are nice to you. And even if you are not fluent in Japanese, if you can just learn a little bit and use like just a little bit, people become less scared and they actually will interact a bit more. Like the most useful term I've learned is mushiatsui. So I just go, mushiatsui, like, and it breaks the barrier.
Yeah.
It means that they don't have to be scared of you. So many Japanese people speak English, but they're scared it's not perfect. So we don't care if it's perfect or not. I understand you, you understand me, we're good.
I love everything about Japan because I love my wife. No, anyway, I'm just kidding. Like, I love the food. The food is great. I love to visit around Japan. I mean, there's so many great places. I love onsen. Onsen is, wow, it's so relaxing. I like it. It was weird at the first time, but now I'm cool with it.
The food, for example, Japanese food. When I was living in California, I was going all the time to the Japanese town, to the Japan town, to get some nice Japanese food. Although I didn't feel that it was that real. I was like, Japan was better. I like also, believe it or not, I love the convenience because you can grab whatever you want in any corner. And in the US, it's a bit difficult. You have to walk a little bit more to get what you need. I also like that it's very safe in Japan. It's really safe, and things work well. For instance, transportation, the streets are clean. you can walk late in the night and without feeling that anyone is gonna come and like show you again. That part is really comfortable and feels really nice, to be honest. Yeah.
The food is really good.
That's true.
The music also is really nice. I was lucky to go to many concerts in like the basement of some buildings, and there is always something going on. Like all types of music and the arts are really strong in Japan. And nature also, like I visited Kyushu a few times, and Kyushu is also really cool. Like there are big forests everywhere. So it's really different from Tokyo. So I think if you ask about Japan, it's very hard to answer because it's so big and there are so many different things to do and to see. So yeah, it's a great country. It's really good.
I'm glad you think so.
I think when I visited here first, before I lived here, I was so interested in the culture and the nature and the food. I really like the food, and I really loved visiting all different prefectures in Japan. And I love the mountains and the ocean, and here you have everything. So it's really beautiful. And since I started living here, I also started to meet a lot of Japanese people, and I also became so interested in knowing more Japanese people and what they like. And I really found it fascinating sometimes the way people are very passionate about something here. So also this aspect of the culture, now I live here, I really appreciate also.
Could you please tell about your research topic in RIKEN? So perhaps a little bit easier so I could, get a feeling as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm interested in aging. And when I joined RIKEN, my purpose was to apply the technology that's being developed here to better understand the heterogeneous vulnerability of people to aging and disease. So for example, in few words, some people age very badly and they acquire a lot of diseases. They get Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease. And some other people really are resilient and can live very long being cognitively sharp. So that really puzzles me. And also at the cellular level, there are a lot of heterogeneity especially in our brains. Each cell is different from another, and also each cell is somehow more resilient and more vulnerable to disease in our brains. So right now, so this is a very broad problem or scientific problem I would like to solve. But right now I'm focusing on understanding the heterogeneity of astrocytes. Astrocytes are very important cells in our brains that actually help our neurons to make connections. And these astrocytes, these cells, are quite heterogeneous, and in normal, but also in disease when we have Alzheimer's disease, for example. So using technology called single-cell transcriptomics, I'm trying to understand the heterogeneity of these disease states of astrocytes in the context of Alzheimer's disease and aging. Yeah, that's pretty much my research. I hope it was clear.
No, that is a very interesting topic.
Thank you.
Seems very complicated as well.
So I'm a researcher associate here in RIKEN, Yokohama, and so I work on aging, specifically chronic inflammation, and I'm involved in a very large-scale project that involves a lot of different labs and professors. And what we're trying to do is basically to dissect the mice at different ages and then look at different organs. And we're trying to see the aging, process at the single cell precision. And we also trying to associate this with the germ-free, how the microbiome in your gut actually affects the aging process of different tissues.
So actually my background is more physics and biophysics. So I studied physics when I was undergrad, and and also my PhD is in physics, where I did the biophysics study. And the topic I was doing at that time is like we're studying how the force would affect the stability of your biomolecule. And one of the biomolecule I was studying is chromatin and nucleosome. So this biomolecule the modification on the biomolecule can control like whether the gene is turned on or off. And that is basically linked to my research here. So yeah, some of the topics are related, but like the way to study this is different. So I want to explore more, and that is the reason I joined the lab.
So you have a physics background, but was it really difficult to shift more like biology field from like after you study physics for a long time?
That's a perfect question. So I would say like the question, the same question, that people from different fields will look at the same question differently. So I think since I'm from a more physical background, what I need to learn more is like at the phenomena level. So I'm more from like the methodology. I'm always trying to think, is there like a new tool that I can create in order to observe like the cellular or molecular phenomena in more detail. But like if you are from biology field, I think you first see what happened first, and then think about like how can we know like why this happened. That is like, in my opinion, I think they are pretty different angles, and you need to know both in order to be a good researcher.
So currently, okay, I'm working on single cell technologies and taking ones that are currently used for human or mouse samples and optimizing them, changing them so we can use them for plants. So basically, say you get a berry milkshake. You get a mixed berry milkshake and you take a drink out of it. All you know is that there's berries in them. You don't know what type of berries, just it's berries. So that was how technologies were. We would do things on a bulk sample. You don't exactly know which cells or which cells are expressing which genes. You just see it across the whole thing. Now, the technologies we're working on take that sample and can actually break it down. So you can see, well, there's actually strawberries there, there's blueberries there, there's blackberries there, raspberries there. So we can actually see at the resolution of a single cell. And that's, to me, is really impressive. I started university just when the human genome was being published. So that was a long time ago. And to think in 20 years we've come to this point where we can tell exactly what one single cell is doing is incredible.
Actually, I am a kind of hybrid scientist. I can do experiments and also I can do computational work. I culture primary astrocytes derived from human individuals, and I use cell culture. I do also genetic manipulation of the cells, and also I analyze one of the organelles that is really interesting in aging are the microglia, the mitochondria, sorry. And I use some techniques to see the mitochondria when the cells are still alive. That's called laser confocal live imaging. And also I analyze data. I do a lot of bioinformatics as well. I analyze data from single cells or single nuclei isolated from post-mortem brains from patients with Alzheimer's disease?
So I've on both the wet lab, so I will go in the lab and perform experiments, and I will also do the dry aspect of research, which is bioinformatics. But as of now, I spend my time in front of the computer trying to make sense of very, very complicated data. So yeah, so like the amount of data that we're collecting in mouse, it's very vast from different collaborators, and I'm trying to integrate all these inputs and then simplify them in order to like make sense of it using different tools such as AI and things of that sort.
RIKEN facility do you use the most often, or which one do you think is the most useful for your research?
So I use the single cell, actually where I am right now, the single cell room the most. So these are the technologies we use to capture a cell, to be able to get our transcriptome information from it. So we have a few different machines which are based on different technologies. And we are very fortunate we have these. A lot of facilities have access to maybe one type of these technologies. Not many have access to 3 I'm currently looking at.
What do you think is the most interesting part of your research, the research that you do right now?
I think it's, as I said, the fact that we can see what is happening in a single cell. Like, it is incredible. One of our machines actually takes a video. So what happens is you have this, a chamber, and inside, in one part, you put a liquid and oil. Another part, you put these beads, which are used to capture the transcriptome of the cell. And in the other one, you put your cells. And I can actually watch the bead and the cell being combined into a drop. And that's incredible. Like, it's, to me, that's just insane. Insane that we can now just see exactly what's happening in one cell.
What are the biggest challenges that you have faced in your current research?
Well, the first one is like I'm mostly I was formally trained as an experimentalist, so I can do experiments, and here my research requires a lot of bioinformatics. So my first year was very difficult for me to adapt to do programming and coding. It was a very steep learning curve. I'm still learning. And that was very difficult, was very challenging actually to try to code, to do programming by myself. And yeah, but after actually a year, I feel more comfortable and more confident in my skills. That is probably the most challenging problem I have to overcome when I first joined RIKEN and started like carrying out my research.
I see.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
There are many things actually I enjoy. I think in a day-to-day basis, really it's always different. One day I'm going to be studying some specific question, and to study this question I need to learn something new I don't know. So every day I will be maybe talking with different researchers to understand a bit more what I need to do to answer my scientific question. And this will be kind of scary sometimes also, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're a bit lost. But also it's kind of always interesting, you know, it's never the same thing, it's never routine, it's always new. So I feel like this is a very important aspect of research, is you can never always do the same thing. You always have to innovate and reinvent yourself and try to do something in a different way. And I think also, once you start doing research, you realize there are many people across the world doing the same research as you, and you start understanding that you belong to this huge network of researchers. And I really like communication and talking with people and exchanging ideas. And it's kind of amazing that we work in this field or where we actually can interact with so many people from everywhere in the world and exchange ideas. So I really like this aspect as well.
What's your favorite part about RIKEN?
It's very similar to what I was saying before. What I really like about RIKEN is the fact that we can work in these huge projects, huge consortium projects, which are, I don't know, it feels kind of special to be able to be included in such kind of huge worldwide projects. You feel like you're contributing to something that is bigger than yourself, which is very motivating. And the second aspect is the people. For me, it's always the people. The researchers here are so inspiring and very friendly, and it's kind of a really relaxed environment and interesting environment. So I think these are the two aspects that I like the most here.
It's always new. There is always something changing and something new to discover. And you really need to work hard to stay at the top of the field and the top of the game. So it's very interesting. There is always something new happening somewhere. And yes, that's very interesting. You don't just go to work and do the same routine job every day.
Right.
There's always something new to do. That's really good. I think I like it.
So was there any difficulty in languages or cultures?
Actually, each place is different. Each place where you do research is different from another, from any other place. I had the chance to study in Japan before in university, and also in California in the US. And each institution have their own advantages and their own some disadvantages as well. But being around, like I'm coming from Peru, like I've been out of Peru like for almost 11 years. I think I can adapt very easily to each to different environments.
Yeah, so I don't know. As a Taiwanese, we feel very familiar with Japanese culture because it's very much like in our everyday life. Yeah, the manga, anime, you grew up with all those, and the food you are very familiar with. So yeah, I don't feel. I feel very comfortable like living in Japan. But when I was a student in the US, I feel more culture difference. Because like I didn't watch as many movie as them. So when my supervisor or my colleague are talking about something like in that movie, as a metaphor, and I don't quite get it. So yeah, but not in Japan. I don't know. I feel I know a lot of these oyaji gyaku.
I think there's always language barriers. Actually, at RIKEN, they run survival Japanese courses. So there's 3 different stages, and it's not just for use in the lab, but it's just for use in daily life, because at the start, everything is just too much. Japanese is so different from English that it gets very difficult. So it was really nice because it gave you confidence to get money from the ATM or to buy groceries or to do things like that. And as I said, my group is very multicultural. So we have 3 Japanese members in my group, and they all speak a very high level of English, much better than our Japanese. So they have been very kind and accommodating.
So mostly here I speak English. So I'm French, so I speak French also. So we have a few French colleagues also. So it's funny sometimes to switch to discuss some research topics in French. I would say about half of our colleagues in the center. About half of the colleagues in the center are Japanese. So I would say with half of the people, half of the colleagues, I speak English, and with the other half, sometimes we need to mix English and Japanese. So it can be challenging sometimes, but all the technical words usually are in English or in katakana English. Like you say the word with the Japanese accent, then it's understood. So usually just with that, with English and some weird pronunciation, then you can be understood by all the colleagues. And yes, there's not so much of a barrier in the everyday life. Every now and then you will see a note written in kanji on the fridge, and you cannot Google translate that note because it's handwritten on the fridge or something. But yeah, other than that, usually it's okay. I'm not sure all of the RIKEN centers are the same. I think it's maybe specific to our IMS center. But yeah, it's really cool to be here.
Obviously, as a scientist, you're quite busy, but I was wondering what do you do in your free time or as hobbies?
Yes, I love playing soccer. Yes, I play during the weekends. I play futsal, or I also play in a big field. I also like it because in terms of COVID, it's not ideal, but at least it's in an open space, and we try to be careful and minimize the contact. But it's good to be in shape and also try to be healthy, to take care of ourselves in doing exercise.
Okay, is there anything like outside of the lab that you do that think maybe helps you in your work, or you like to do, or?
So that was when my whole enjoying sumo came into it.
Okay.
I can actually talk about it, even a little bit in Japanese. And I also think it taught me that I can communicate with Japanese people without actually speaking the language. Like you can, and I think that helps a lot when it comes to science, because like say in our lab, my lab group, we have Japanese people, we have Tahitian man, someone from Taiwan, someone from India, and someone from New Zealand, someone from Spain. Like it's just a huge collection of people, and we don't all come from the same place. We don't all speak the same primary language, our first language, but because we all enjoy science, we can all communicate, which I think is something that's helped.
So do you have advice for people aspiring to be scientists in the future?
Yes. I think one thing I want to tell the high school student is that you don't need to wait until other people to teach you. Especially now, like compared to, I don't know, I'm already 36, compared to like 15 years ago when I was undergrad. Because now, I don't know, have you heard of this Coursera? Like many universities are trying to open their actual course, but they do it also online.
Oh yeah.
And it's all free. So basically, like I feel like you don't even need to go to university. You can sit at home, not because of COVID, but you can sit at home and basically learn all the subject of your interest.
Science is fun, but you need to be passionate about it. You cannot go there just for any other reason than that, to be honest with you, because it's tough. And I think, it's a great place to make a lot of new friends. Collaboration is so important, and don't that's me. Don't get stuck on one specific thing. It's better now, especially nowadays, to be more multidisciplinary. So try to learn as many things as you can. So I started chemistry, but I mixed a little bit of biology now, biochemistry, and then now I do a lot of computational. So computational skill is a must. It will be a must for your generation. So again, it doesn't matter which field you go into now. I think you will have an edge if you also learn how to program and do some computational analysis. Yeah.
RIKEN is a great place to work out, and I think for anyone, if they are passionate about something specific, a specific field, no matter if it's science or not, you should follow your dreams, because life is short. Do what you like mostly. So I'm really lucky that I feel like going to work is like going to Disneyland every day. I'm really lucky that I have this kind of job, and I really hope that everyone can find whatever jobs they like this. Mm-hmm. I think really, really important.
Contact me or your friends anytime if you need any help or advice. I'll be happy to help.
Where do you play futsal?
Actually, there's so many miraculous things happening in that tube. We just can't see it. That's incredible.
So learning the math will help you in all different ways.
Sometimes schools, like outside of the open day, schools can come and visit whenever they make an appointment, and then a few students come with their teacher to visit and ask questions.
Of course, everyone is welcome.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for letting me interview you.
Yeah,
I'm sure
no
you're very
problem.
busy as well.
It was a pleasure.
I would love to visit RIKEN someday and talk more.
Yeah, you should totally.
Because I think we usually do as a class, but because of COVID, it's not happening.
Right. It would be nice. Of course, everyone is welcome.
Thank you so much.